And Father Thomas Rees is a senior analyst for the Religion News Service. He comes to us from CNN Washington, and thanks for doing so. Father, you wrote in the Catholic Register that the Pope, quote, risks either compromising his moral authority or putting in danger the Christians of that country. Explain what you mean.
Well, the Pope is going into a very difficult situation. His heart is with the Rohingya people who have been so persecuted, have been, as the United Nations and the United States government have said, have been the object of ethnic cleansing. At the same time, the Christians in Myanmar are a very small minority, and they also have been persecuted and treated badly by the military and by the government. So the Pope is caught. You know, I think he wants to speak out strongly in defense of the Rohingya, but he's also got to be worried about a backlash against the Christians who are already suffering in Myanmar. So he's in a very, very delicate situation.
Yeah, it's very difficult for him, but I guess if he is silent, he's going there, and that's a fact. If he's silent about the persecution of the Rohingya publicly, does he then not lose that moral credibility? How can he walk that line? Saying nothing really is saying something, isn't it?
Well, this is going to be the real challenge of the trip. This is why I wish someone in the Vatican had talked him out of going, because he simply cannot go there and be silent. He has spoken out in support of the Rohingya from Rome, but can he say something while he is in Myanmar? I mean, certainly when he goes to Bangladesh, he will bring the whole focus of international attention on the crisis of the refugees there who are in desperate need of assistance from the international community. And that alone makes the trip worthwhile. But, you know, to go to Myanmar and not say anything about the Rohingya. In fact, the cardinal in Myanmar doesn't even want him to use the word Rohingya, because the Buddhist majority looks upon these people as illegal aliens, a threat to their national security, etc., even though they've been there for generations.
Exactly. You're a member of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, which has itself listed Myanmar as one of the worst countries in the world on religious freedom. What needs to happen for that to change?
Well, what needs to happen is, first of all, for the military to stop their ethnic cleansing, to stop their violence. I mean, we see from satellite videos that whole villages have been burned to the ground. We have reports of rape and murder from refugees who have been in Bangladesh. You know, journalists and human rights groups have well documented the abuses of the Myanmar military. So that's got to stop. And then I think that the Rohingya need to be allowed to come back to their country, come back to their villages. You know, not just be put into camps where they're isolated and kept under atrocious circumstances. Yes. Basically, ultimately, they have to be treated like citizens and given the same kind of equality and treatment and fairness that any other Myanmar citizen would be due. And
in fact, the deal done on repatriating at least some of those refugees in Bangladesh is woefully short on detail on exactly how that would be done and what their status would be, freedom of movement, right down to health care and where they'll live. So you make a valid point. Let's go back to the Christian population there. 4%, I think, of the population is Christian. What difficulties does that community specifically face?
Well, both Catholics and Baptists have suffered persecution in Myanmar. We've had situations where churches have been burned down, military have moved in. In some towns, they have been forced to convert to Buddhism. Often this is led by radical monks who can be the most powerful person in a village. Much more powerful than the local government officials. So there, you know, we've had cemeteries that have been desecrated. All of these kinds of things. We had a deacon who was shot and then hauled off by the military, and never heard of again. So these are the kinds of things that have happened in just the general discrimination against Christians and both Catholics and Baptists and Muslims is such that they can't get education, they can't get jobs, real strong discrimination against them.
And the Pope walking into the middle of that mess, if you'd like. We wish him well and see if he can work his magic. Father,
I pray that I'm wrong. I pray that if he can succeed in doing something there, I will expect to see him walk on water next.
Well, we shall see. Father Thomas Rees with Religion News Service. Thanks so much. Good to speak with you.